We are the Violence Prevention Partnership, and we are proposing a campus program to create and implement a comprehensive process to significantly reduce the occurrences of sexual assault on the University of Alaska Fairbanks campuses. And we want you to be a part of this effort. According to the Center for Disease Control, intimate partner violence is defined as physical, sexual, or psychological harm by a current or former partner or spouse. It can include acts of stalking, harassment, abuse, and rape. We have all heard the statistics. 1 in 5 18 to 24-year-old women at some point in their college career will either be sexually assaulted or an attempted sexual assault perpetrated against them. 57% of women in the Fairbanks North Star Borough have reported at some point in their lifetime having suffered some form of interpersonal violence. We also know that the same rates of interpersonal violence occur in same-sex couples. The bottom line is, far too many people are getting hurt on our campus and in our community. The University of Alaska Fairbanks, founded in 1917, is the original and main campus of the system and is commonly referred to as the flagship of the University of Alaska. UAF has 2 locations within the Fairbanks North Star Borough: the main residential campus and the Community and Technical College in downtown Fairbanks. UAF branch campuses are located throughout the state in Bethel, Dillingham, Kotzebue, Nome. In addition, UAF administers a number of educational centers through the interior Aleutian campuses, and they include communities of McGrath, Galena, Nenana, Tok, Fort Yukon, and Unalaska. Several UAF components are recognized as Alaskan Native serving institutions. Because UAF has branch campuses across the state in 11 separate communities, UAF is well positioned to impact a broad cross-section of the population affected by sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking within the state of Alaska. The Violence Prevention Partnership would propose that primary prevention is the most effective way to address and reduce the epidemic proportions of violence within our communities. The CDC lists 4 areas that need to be addressed regarding interpersonal violence. Preventing interpersonal violence by improving relationships within families and with partners. Services provided to victims of interpersonal violence need to be widespread and build rapport within communities. Those individuals that break the laws and inflict interpersonal violence on others should be held accountable under stricter laws with stricter punishments. And finally, data analysis in interpersonal violence must be thorough and frequent so that potential solutions can be found and tested. Although all valid generic suggestions, these areas represent the historic way in which society has attempted to address these issues. Albert Einstein is noted to have said, "The definition of insanity is to repeat the same things over and over and expect a different result." When you truly look at the data, it reflects the aforementioned strategies truly only address a small percentage of the overall issue. Because dating violence and acquaintance rapes are less likely to be reported than stranger rapes, the likelihood of victims reporting sexual assaults is lower on college campuses. Researchers estimate that only in 5% of the cases are they reported to law enforcement authorities. The reporting in Alaska is consistent with this study, according to the State of Alaska's Council on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. With the rates of sexual assault and domestic violence throughout Alaska being at epidemic proportions, 1 in 2 women having experienced victimization at some point in their lifetime, it is natural to assume that the rates for the University of Alaska Fairbanks are dramatically underreported. The current number of students enrolled at UAF is 10,214. 59.3% that is, are women. So roughly 6,057 of those students are women. If for the sake of this discussion, they all were between the ages of 18 and 24, statistically, 1,211 of them will either be sexually assaulted or an attempted sexual assault perpetrated against them during their time in college. If only 5% report the assault to law enforcement authorities, that means only 60 women will report. And statistically, only 10% of them will reach a successful prosecution. This would leave 1,205 survivors without justice. The harsh truth is, waiting for an assault to occur and reacting to that assault does not significantly quell this issue. If it did, we would already have seen significant reductions in the assault rates. In addition to the untold emotional costs and long-lasting effects associated with sexual assault, the U.S. Department of Justice estimates that roughly $7.5 billion is spent on medical expenses, police and court costs, shelters, foster care, sick leave, absenteeism, and non-productivity. Roughly $5.8 billion is spent on healthcare issues alone. There are a number of efforts currently underway on the Title IX or on the UAF campus to address the proper response and resources are available when a sexual assault occurs, largely under the Title IX implementation efforts. It is the intent of the Violence Prevention Partnership, through collaboration with these efforts, and hopefully with you, that we will be able to provide training and education to the resident advisors, remote campuses, directors, staff, and faculty, educating them on the need for primary prevention and in the implementation of the Green Dot Violence Prevention Strategy. It is our belief that only through creating a culture of safety on UAF, engaging everyone to do his or her part, will we see significant reductions in the perpetration of sexual assault. As we look at this issue, we realize we have a long way to go. But to accomplish this, we will do so by trying to reach the following benchmarks. We will create a tracking mechanism to capture all students, staff, and faculty completing bystander intervention training and other mandatory sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking training by September 2016. We will provide mandatory bystander intervention education regarding sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking to all incoming students, students living in residence halls, student athletes, and incoming transfer students. This will include a culturally sensitive approach for Alaskan Native students, with particular attention given to individuals from rural Alaska. This mandatory bystander intervention training will be established by September 2017. We will train all campus law enforcement, security personnel, EMS responders, fire responders, and law enforcement units and dispatchers in the bystander training curriculum by September 2017. We will also train all personnel responsible for appeals, faculty, staff, and students, and the administrators involved in campus disciplinary boards, judicial affair hearings, and Title IX investigations in bystander training curriculum by September of 2017. And lastly, we will establish an ongoing mandatory educational programming regarding sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking violence, as well as bystander training to the entire campus community by September 2018. The bottom line is we're here today to be reminded that these statistics, they're just not numbers. They represent people. Our brothers and sisters, our moms and dads, sons and daughters, quite frankly, our friends. This issue touches all of our lives in one way or another. As a community, it's important that we remember if we want to be serious about reducing the rates, if we truly want to make a significant difference that resonates through time, it is not enough to just be passionate. We must claim this issue as our own, as a community, men and women standing together. We must send a message that one person being harmed is too many, and it will not be tolerated. We must change from a culture of silence to a culture that sends a clear message that the proliferation of power-based interpersonal violence, of sexual assault, is all of our business, and we will no longer ignore it. We will no longer look the other way or blame victims for its occurrence. If you are here today, I believe that you made a choice to be here and to be a part of that change. But if we're going to convince others to make the same choice, we'll have a hard time doing it by just thinking about it or showing up and talking about it. Being aware of the statistics and passionate about the change will never be enough to bring about that change. So as you reconsider your role in this issue, I want you to keep in mind this. Peer influence is one of the most significant factors impacting a person's choices and behaviors. So I ask yourself, what can you do to convince your friends, your classmates, your families that they too need to do something? But more importantly, the question I have for you today is whether to do something, or whether you're going to do something or do nothing. I appreciate your time, and we'll sit around for a little bit to answer any questions you might have.